I do not believe rumor is the correct term. Over the last several months, my faith in the Disney product has diminished severely. At first, it was Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy limiting the Force to a single gender, alienating most of the Star Wars fandom like my 12-year-old son. Then with further comments from Miss Kennedy which are very sexist. I felt as though I was being personally attacked as well as my son. Furthermore, when The Last Jedi hit theaters, I took my son to see it as we were both fans of the franchise. The insult to our intelligence we received, as well as the insult to fervent fans, characters, and actors, was too much to bear. I left the theater Thursday of opening weekend, needing several days to process the visual garbage we had been served. Those of us who were very vocal about our displeasure of the direction of the film were met with insults by the director/writer Rian Johnson, as well as previous film writer-director J.J. Abrams. Personal attacks, name-calling, and labeling are not what I would call professional behavior. Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy offered no apologies to we the fans or chastised her subordinates for their behavior. It would be logical at this point to assume that she approved of their actions. These things alone have spurred myself and many others to boycott Disney Star Wars and all of its products until the leadership at Lucasfilm has changed. But then this week, a very disturbing revelation enlightened the original Star Wars fanbase as to the true direction of Kathleen Kennedy's ideology. In an interview with the Huffington Post, the writer of Solo: A Star Wars Story, Jonathan Kasdan, informed the world that Lando Calrissian is pansexual. You may not know what a pansexual person is. Many of us had to look up the definition. If you have not, let me explain that a pansexual is a person who is aroused sexually by everything. Everything is a male, female, adult, child, animal, inanimate objects, trees, plants, kitchen sinks, and apparently in a galaxy far, far away, droids. This is not an exaggeration. This is disturbing to say the very least, that this character is one in a space opera that is meant to be family entertainment. Family entertainment. Am I supposed to feel comfortable taking my children to a film that not only writes characters who are like this, but when confronted about its absurdity to Jonathan Kasdan via social media are met with more insults from the professionals under the Disney umbrella? Mr. Kasdan has stated that he is proud to have pushed his identity into family entertainment. Proud to have pushed the idea that a grown man, be it fictional, gets aroused by children among many other things. I have to ask the question at this point, did Disney buy Lucasfilm to destroy it? I would have had to have asked the same question after The Last Jedi, but now I feel a further, more sinister question is validated. Did Disney buy Lucasfilm as a tool to sexualize children? You are allowing a woman that has stated openly that she does not think a qualified person, if they are male, should be hired by Lucasfilm. You have allowed a director to create a film that was made to divide the fan base, whose views are openly racist and sexist. You have allowed several employees of Lucasfilm to engage fans on social media in a hostile manner with labels and insults. Now you are allowing writers to push fringe sexualities upon already established characters from the original films that will influence children. Everything but the last observation is just poor executive management. The last observation is simply moral corruption. If your intention is to flush a $4 billion investment for the hell of it, that just pisses we the fans off. If your intention is to expose children to over-sexualized lifestyles, that is not only abhorrent, but a gross violation of the public trust in a company that makes most of its products for children. I must ask you, Mr. Iger, why does this not conflict with the culture of Disney Company, or your personal morality? This has now gone beyond a simple boycott. I can't believe that a company as influential as yours has no inkling whatsoever of the many thousands of Star Wars fans who are completely disgusted by the ideological direction of Kathleen Kennedy. I can't fathom the shareholders being deaf or blind. With the revelation made by Mr. Kasdan that our beloved characters will not only become sexualized, but in ways that will stray well outside the norm of traditional sexual relationships for reasons of social justice, a boycott will simply no longer do. We the fans have no intention of allowing radical ideology to expose children to fringe sexual identities for the purpose of sexualizing children. As of this letter, President of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, has again not responded to the statements made by those under her management, so again I must assume that she agrees with the statements that have been made. It is then by default up to you, Mr. Iger, to decide how long you will stay silent on these issues. Do we live in a time where Disney not only does not care about the fans or one of the companies under its umbrella, but allows it to become the funny uncle of the family entertainment industry? The time has come, sir, to fire this overpaid secretary and place someone in charge of Lucasfilm who not only cares about the franchise, for which they are in charge of, but does not allow her subordinates to push their personal sexual fantasies upon the young, betraying the trust we've placed in you. A complete disbelief of fan. I didn't publish his name for reasons, but this letter was too important. I had to put it out there. And now the backlash has begun. Look at the Rotten Tomatoes scores for Solo. Fan interest is at an all-time low. I keep seeing both the fan score and the critic score drop. I'm convinced that the critics are rating this film low in order to keep their credibility, because they are essentially paid off to praise The Last Jedi. I'm not saying money was involved, but something fishy happened. Fans are pissed and are not anticipating anything short of a dumpster fire. We asked our friends to send in screenshots of the availability for their Solo screenings, and here we are. You can see them on the screen as I finish out this video. Now, obviously, this is anecdotal, but it does show signs that things are changing and not in the direction Lucasfilm was hoping for. You want early excitement that's bordering on obsession. You want people talking about how excited they are for the film. And you want packed houses across the country. Solo has none of that. People are just fed up with the wars, and again, Han Solo is going to be used as the example for that. Bad business is just bad, but it's worse when intentional. Lucasfilm is deliberately pissing on the fan base. Kathleen Kennedy has allowed it, and the gentleman who wrote in earlier said he's fed up with it. In the words of Owen Hart, enough is enough and it's time for a change. Lucasfilm needs to cut the deadweight that is cray cray KK and start rebuilding with the fans. Or in simpler terms, Lucasfilm needs to learn that you can't shit what you eat. Have you noticed more articles talking about how we don't need this Solo movie and how people aren't excited for it more than ever? I mean, personally, I would have said that for Episode 8, Episode 7. We don't need these movies. The story's over. The story for Luke, Leia, and Han was over at Return of the Jedi. But we killed off Han, and now we're going to go back to the well to milk it for more nostalgia and reasons, and people are just fed up with it. I think Han Solo will go down in history as being the most exploited Star Wars character. And that's just sad. From a personal standpoint, he's my favorite character. As a kid, I always wanted more Han Solo adventures. I would read the books, and when he was the main character, I'd be excited. When he wasn't, I would just get to that part where he was the lead. I've just been a big Han Solo fan. And he's just been the one character that's been ruined. Could it be an attack on masculinity? Could be. There was an article out this week from, I believe, The Roots or TheRoot.com talking about how Lando's pansexuality is an attack on black manhood. I don't know what's the case. I don't know what the decisions are. I can say that Kathleen Kennedy up in her nut house that used to be called Lucasfilm really fucking up the franchise. It's really, really sad. So tell me what you guys think. Tell me what you think about this letter. I felt that it was very important to share. We got tagged in it in the email, and I didn't want to give the guy's name out just to protect him in case some crazy person online tries to contact him or find him or hurt him or do something. But it's a real email, it's genuine, and it's sent to Bob Iger. And I hope Bob Iger or his secretary or someone sees this letter. Because maybe Star Wars isn't as nefarious as he's saying, but something's got to be done about that woman. She is so underqualified for her job. She's not any good. The thing with her is that her name's on some of the best films of all time. But like I've said earlier, if you look at what she actually did on the films, she's like an executive producer where she's basically involved with the way the money is handled between the banks and the studios, not the creativity aspect of it. It'd be like putting the Towboy for a multiple winning Super Bowl team as the head coach just because he was part of the team, or in the Hall of Fame or something. Like, Kathleen Kennedy is the Towboy of the entertainment world. She was there, but everyone else was the reason why said film was successful. Kathleen Kennedy didn't make Back to the Future great, or any of the Indiana Jones films great, or E.T. or anything. By proxy, she gets the praise, by proxy, she has the job she has, because the political climate we're in today, where there's this upsurge, and we have to get women in these roles in entertainment and change the way people act and believe and think. And I'm all for having women in roles of power if they're the most qualified person. It's not about what's between your legs, it's about what's between your ears, your brain, and if you want to get into it, your heart too. Because if your heart's not in the right place, just don't fucking do it. But her heart's definitely not in the right place. And her head, ironically, her head's in the right place, up her own ass. And so many other people are up there too. This Solo film is not going to change anything. And as I've said before, and I'm going to keep on saying until it comes out, make sure you hit Episode 9 where it hurts. Don't forget about it and then become complacent and go see Episode 9 in theaters because you forgot how angry you were at one point in time. Keep that shit rolling. Episode 9 is where you need to hit it. It's all about that movie becoming a failure. Because that's when us, the fans, can say what we did is winning. We're tired of the weird gender politics and the weird social ideologies and all these things. And, you know, we're also tired of the bad characters. We're tired of the poor writing and the poor directing and the rehashing of old elements and scenes and plots and all this other shit. That's where we gotta hit it. We gotta hit it with Episode 9. And we have to make it painfully obvious that the rehashing and the bad storytelling is what really hurts it. Because no one's truly angry that Star Wars has a female lead. Princess Leia's always been one of the main characters in the film. But Rey is a bad character, male or female. She's a Mary Sue. And if she was a man, she'd be a Gary Sue. Or she would just be a shitty character overall. So make sure you keep this vitriol for Episode 9. As always, thank you for watching this video. If you're a fan of this channel, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and share it everywhere you go. If you're a super fan, make sure you join the Patreon page and help us change things. Get involved with world-class bullshitters. The last few weeks have been really awesome, really huge for us, and we're going to keep this momentum going forever. Because we're not backing down, the shills are. If you haven't had a chance to check out the John Campea shill video, make sure you do. Thousands of people have watched it. About 50,000 people at this point, until I did it for a little over a day. So let's keep the momentum flowing on that John Campea video and all the shill videos of world-class bullshitters. Because we're not doing any personal attacks on people, we're calling people out for shady business practices and lying to us. Basically, those people are advertising tools, but they act like they're fan. And you know what? That's fine. Advertising's fine. But lying about it isn't. Speaking of advertising, this video is brought to you by Aaron Clary, author of The Curse of the High IQ. And if you want to advertise with world-class bullshit, make sure you shoot us an email, worldclassbs@mail.com. That's mail.com. We reach almost 500,000
She
people.
looks like a stupid dog.
Based product, we're the right place for you. So make sure you come back to
A collie. Ugh.
Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we're revisiting the very controversial new Star Wars movie, The Last Jedi. It's been about 3 weeks since it came out, and there really doesn't seem to be consensus on it yet. The Rotten Tomatoes ratings still have a big gap, as we mentioned before. 91% from the critics and a troubling 51% from the audience. Apparently people either love it or they really hate it. I personally did a mostly positive review of it here, after my first viewing, but I did recognize many of the flaws it has. And perhaps upon a second viewing, when it comes out on DVD and more time has passed, I can maybe stop the fanboying and see how really bad it is. In fact, while making this very video, I kinda already have. But today we're not going to review the movie again. Not exactly. No, today we're going to go over all the SJW moments in The Last Jedi. My SJW moments in Spider-Man Homecoming, that video did very well, so I think it's fitting to do this again for Star Wars, especially considering the SJW material it provides us. There were many subtle moments and themes that were very SJW, and even one pink-haired feminist as a main character. I'm not kidding. We're going to go over all this and more, so let's go ahead and get started. Let's start with the overly diverse casting, something that's been painstakingly present in all 3 of the new Star Wars movies made under Disney. Things are so diverse and multicultural now, it's kind of distracting, if we're being honest. Luckily, the cast is good in The Last Jedi. They're all talented actors, but unfortunately, they're not given much to work with here, story-wise. They do their best, but sometimes your best isn't good enough. But there is a case to be made for the newly diversified Star Wars cast. Many complain about the original movie being almost only white, and that was in 1977, when the country itself was still mostly white. And now as the times changed, and diversity has become our supposed strength, so too has Star Wars, and its characters have diversified, clearly. One caveat to throw in there would, of course, be the demonization of white males, who in the new movies are almost exclusively all the villains and evil characters. And on the flip side, minorities and women are all the best and coolest characters. Kind of overcompensating for the past, if you ask me. Next, let's go through each character, who has their own sorts of SJW social justice angles themselves. Starting with Kylo Ren, who's pretty much the embodiment of an emo millennial. He's angry, troubled, always complaining, has no dad, and is a bit of a mama's boy. Remember, he couldn't get himself to kill his mom in this movie, the beginning, while in The Force Awakens he quite easily slaughtered his father, Han Solo. Top that off with the fact that him and Hux are the only white male main characters, and they're also evil assholes. And well, put all that together, and you can see that SJWs in the writer's room had a pretty clear agenda.
What's your favorite Star Wars character?
Ray, easy.
That's not true. That's so Yoda.
You're supposed to say Hux.
Oh,
What's going on here?
What is your favorite Star Wars episode? The one with Hux in it?
Well, yeah, the main one with Hooks, probably.
Moving down the main cast, we've of course got Rey, who's this unstoppable Mary Sue character. Sure, she's white too, but she's a woman, so she gets an SJW pass. It really gets frustrating, though, seeing how overpowered they've made her. I mean, making a chick the main character is one thing, but making her strong enough to both defeat Kylo Ren and Luke Skywalker, who are well trained, and she has no training,